was ranked 340 in AILET. I was ranked 232 in MHCET. And I'm finally joined RGNUL, Patiala, Punjab. And as for today I'll be teaching you and giving you the basic tips for English grammar. And, even in general, the best way to, cope up with English. Now, before I begin, I like to just share my screen in my PPT. Just 1 second. I'm also sorry for the delay. I had to come to somebody else's house for better internet because my internet failed at my house. Is my PPT visible to everyone?
Yeah, it is visible. You can start.
I'll just start the slideshow. Now, like I said, I'll be teaching you all English grammar and language today. Am I audible? Please do tell me if I'm not audible at any point.
Yeah, you're audible now. You can continue.
Yeah. So now, firstly, I'd like to divide the syllabus for everyone. Now, as you know, the Clat pattern's changed and it's entirely comprehension-based questions. And AILET syllabus has also taken a considerable amount of change with like the whole marking scheme changing and them removing mathematics. But the one thing that has remained the same is your English has to be the best possible, because not just the comprehension-based questions of English, your entire Clat paper depends on your understanding of the language. While it's not while it's logical reasoning, legal reasoning, but unless and until you have like a mastery of English, there is no way you can cover the English language syllabus. So this is just the syllabus for everyone. I'll also make the PPT available for anyone who wants it. Now, the second part is understanding parts of speech to improve English. Now, the first tip that I give to people is before you proceed with understanding, with starting off with English, you have all read grammar in class 4th and class 5th. But then we stop, learning grammar from the basics. But whenever you want to prepare for Clat and AILET, you should start from the absolute basic. Once more, revise your noun, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, because sometimes they even give questions wherein they're going to confuse you with these very words, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and further it clarifies, it makes catching minor grammatical mistakes easier. It makes comprehension of the passage easier. I also suggest, and this was one of the tips that I have really used, is I've always read the newspaper, no matter what. Every single day, make use of the editorial, not just for your GK, but for your English section. The reason for that is every single day in the editorial section of Times of India, The Hindu, different writers write articles and everybody's writing style is very different. Now, if you practice on those passages, try to understand the tone of the passage, which is a very common question. Try to understand what is the author trying to say? What is the conclusion? What is the inferences? So you can practice in editorials. So I really suggest everyone read the newspaper every day. This will also give you a lot of chance to improve your vocabulary. So start with parts of speech and basic grammar. Read the newspaper every day, no matter what. It helps improve your reading, speeds up your reading in general as well. And then move on to, trying to make questions in your own mind when you read those editorials. Now, moving to my next would be tips to solve a comprehension. Now, I would like if people also speak up. Sir, are people allowed to speak up in the section?
Yeah, definitely.
So does anybody have any questions so far? Because I would love if anybody asks me questions or if anybody has any doubts, so that it's not just me giving a monologue. Is there anyone with any question? Okay, I'm assuming you'll have questions at the end, which I'll take at the end. So moving on with tips to solve a comprehension. Now, my belief is that there are very different ways to solve a comprehension. Now, the problem with Clat passages is, and this I tell my students because I also teach English during the day to many Clat students. Now, what happens with a comprehension passage is that there are very different people use different techniques. So the first thing that you need to know is that Clat passages are going to be boring or can be about a topic in which you have no interest. Like, for example, an English paragraph might suddenly be on a geography topic. It may also be on like some history based Afghanistan issue and it's absolutely at length. So the first thing that you need to know before you start to solve comprehension is you need to have wider interests, or at least see to it that you pretend to be interested, because this is one of the worst things that happens during the Clat paper. Many people are reading it, but then they realize they've not comprehended it and they just gave it a reading. So then they start to read over again. That is a big problem during Clat. You're going to face this. So when you're giving your mock tests, etc., try to see to it that your mind is actually focused from the first time that you read it to actually comprehend, rather than just give it a reading. Now, the different ways to solve a comprehension are: you can either read the first two paras, understand what exactly happened in the passage, like basically get a clue that, okay, this is what the passage is talking about. Then read the questions quickly, because the questions are, it's like on online basis also, it's like a click versus, and if it's a pen and paper test, then it's even better because all the questions are right there in front of you. Read the questions and then again come from the third para and read the comprehension. Now, this is one of the techniques. This is the technique that I used to use the most. Now, what happens when you use this technique? Because you've already read the questions. See, when you read the first two paras, you get to know what the passage is about. Then when you read the questions, you can start to focus on actually finding the answers when you're reading again from paragraph 3. Because Clat passages are lengthy, difficult to comprehend. Sometimes also there'll be a question like this, that what is the meaning of the word pantheon as used in the passage? Now, if you've quickly read the questions, now you read the first two paragraphs, then you read the questions, you come across this question, so you know that when I'm reading the rest of the passage, I have to look for the word pantheon. If you read the whole passage and then read the questions, what happens is then you can't find these words, because of which you can lose marks. So this is my technique, that read the first two paras and then read the questions and then come back to the rest of the comprehension. Another, technique that has worked with some of my students is reading the whole passage, which is the, the normal OG technique, as they say. You read the whole passage, then the questions, and then you again go back to the passage. But this creates a few issues for those who easily tend to forget what they've read, or looking for words. So I normally do not suggest, but if this works out for you, then it's great. Then the other last technique is that you can read the first two paras, then quickly skim through the rest, so that you know entirely what has happened in the passage, you know the conclusion, and then looking at the questions. Now, what my suggestion is, how do you figure out which is the best technique for you? Now, I came up with my technique of reading the first two paragraphs and then reading the questions after actually having done multiple passages in each of these techniques. So what I suggest is take maybe 2 mock tests with similar comparable paragraphs. Don't take one with very easy and one with very difficult. No, take 2 mock tests which have comparable paragraphs and solve one entire English section based on my method, maybe the first 2 paras and then questions and then back. And then read the other one in the whole passage in the normal technique. And then see which one are you getting a higher accuracy, and in which one is your speed, speed the best. After you've figured that out, then you can decide which is the best manner to solve a comprehension. Does anyone have any doubts regarding this approach? If anyone has any doubts, I'll be happy to clarify them. If anyone has any questions. Okay, I'm assuming there are no questions.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
My name is Santosh Kumar. Actually, I'm appearing for May 2022 class. So actually, you said that by reading the whole passage and seeing the questions, then you have to jump again on the passage. Will
Yes.
it not take more time, like 7 to 8
Absolutely. This is
minutes?
why I'm saying that this is exactly the reason. I'm saying that I realize this, that I'm losing a lot of time. So what happens is, see, we all want to get through Clat, but the competition is very tough. So you have to have the highest accuracy. By accuracy, I mean how many questions you get correct. And you have to do it in the quickest time possible. Now, what happens? Some people with the technique of reading the first 2 paras and then reading the questions, this technique, they get correct answers as well as they're quick. But if you're not being able to get correct answers, only then go for the whole passage method. Otherwise, I'm strongly suggesting what happens is you'll read the whole passage Then you will come to the questions. Let's say the question says, like I said, this is actually a paragraph. This was actually a question, that where is what is the meaning of the word pantheon as used in this passage? So now you'll again come back to the comprehension and you'll almost have to read the whole of the passage again. And this will take up to like double the time rather than the first technique. So I always suggest try using the first technique and getting used to it, because it does it in half the timings. And even use this technique, you can use this technique in legal reasoning, because I have used it in legal reasoning heavily. Use it in your logical reasoning as well in Clat, because they're comprehension based, right? You can use this for any test. You can even use this for other examinations that you're giving. If you're giving bank PO, etc., also you can always use this technique, because this is a short technique to get right answers in the quickest possible time. Only go for the second method if you're getting answers incorrect with the first method. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I got your point. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And anybody else also, if has any question, you can unmute at any point, because that's the only way you're going to get what I'm trying to tell you. Further, moving on, this is another technique that you need to learn, and that is skimming. Now, skimming is basically, you cannot always read everything line by line with exact to just give a look at it and try to understand what's happening in the passage. This comes after you've roughly practiced, because I had done roughly around 40, 60 mocks in my first 6 months of preparation. So the more mocks you give, this is going to come. Also, why I suggest giving mocks over just practicing comprehensions. Now, how do you practice comprehensions? This is going to be my next slide, but I'll start with it right now only. When you take a comprehension, first few days, like roughly for about, if you have, let's say you have to see how many months do you have for preparation. Let's say you have 7 months for your preparation. Then the first 1 month, you read comprehensions. You don't look at the time, don't look at any timer. Start to read comprehensions, get the answer, figure out your technique. Like I said, I've given the 3 possible techniques that you can use. Figure out which technique works out the best for you for accuracy. Then from the second month, you have to get a timer and see which one is working out the best for you within which technique. By the end of 2 months, if you have 7 months of preparation, then by the end of 2 months, you have to have absolute knowledge of which technique fits for you, and then not change it. And then you start giving mocks. Now, the purpose of giving mocks is the only accurate mechanism in which you can actually learn whether or not you're being able to. So it doesn't matter whether you're going to a coaching or a non-coaching. These are all personal choices. I always tell students whatever works best for you. But do get mock tests. Even if you're getting it online, you're getting some PDF of a mock test, set a timer with you of 2 hours and then sort it. Don't ever give a mock without the timings, because the timings factor is the hardest in Clat, even with the old pattern, even now. The timing is what is, you're going to see you have like 50 questions or 30 questions left or 20 questions left and time is up. So you have to see to it that you cover as much of the paper as possible. So you have to start giving mocks. And English section really depends on time, because people take very less time in English and GK, so that they have more time, as much of time that they can allocate to the data interpretation part in Clat, in AILET, so that they can do logical reasoning, because logical reasoning will take hefty amount of time in AILET and data interpretation will take a lot of time in Clat. So you have to do the English and general knowledge sections as fast as possible. So this is one more tip. Now, moving ahead. Further, now, how do you learn? How do you know what is your reading speed? This is one more very important thing. Before you start with the comprehensions, etc., there are websites available on the internet which have reading speed calculators. Just type on the internet reading speed calculator. You'll find various, and there they'll ask you also what kind of a passage would you like. So if it is based on grades, always choose grade 12th. And if it is based on easy, hard, moderate, take hard, so that you have the hardest passage, and calculate your reading speed based on that. You'll get a word per minute. Now, there are some students who have 153 words per minute, etc. That is too less. You have to get the highest word per minute. So that will give you a clue as to how fast you are. And after that, you have to start improving your reading, because comprehensions are not, it's not possible to solve comprehensions without knowing your reading speed and without actively improving it. And for that, I'm again going to suggest editorials of Hindu are a must. In case you're not getting any newspaper in your house, there are various websites which are absolutely free. Like Wire is free. Okay, use Wire heavily, because in fact this has happened because it's a free source. Many mock tests and even Clat themselves might actually just use the very passage, like the very wire article that you've read. So that gives you an upper hand. And it'll help you for GK. So use Wire. There are lots. Washington Post is not free, but you're going to find many are free. BBC is free. Al Jazeera is free. Al Jazeera is a news channel, but their editorials are also free. Times of India's, there is this online editorial section. Just type Times of India online. You're going to find their editorial and you'll be able to read it. So make use of this. Also, sometimes when you're bored of the newspaper, make use of Wire, because I've noticed that Wire articles very often have come in Clat. Also, what you can do is on the Clat website, they have given some practice mocks. Okay. And at the end of the practice mocks, they have given in brackets where have they taken it from. Those particular sites where they've taken articles from, go to those sites regularly. Those are the sources from which they're going to make your paper, your final paper. So this is also something that I did, which helped me a lot. Further, like I said this earlier also, do not just read the passage, see to it that you're understanding it. Very often people just read it and then they're like, oh, I did not understand parts. Let me read it again. Will take up a lot of time. You have to save time. Time is of key here. Now, also start with basic passages initially and then move on to hard. Because if you initially start with very, very difficult passages, you might get demotivated. So start with easier passages. If you run out of material to read in English, you can always refer to CAT material, CAT. CAT material is usually a little harder than CLAT, so that's also better for your practice. Am I audible still?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you
audible.
are.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at my PPT as well, right? So that you all get the full screen view. So that is why I just get a confirmation. Anybody has any doubts till now before I move on to the next part?
Yeah, I had a doubt.
Yeah.
So, previously you stated that we could like think about the conclusion and understand the conclusion of editorials in the newspaper. I just
Absolutely.
wanted to ask, like I've been practicing that for like a month, but I don't understand how we can confirm that what we have stated is the conclusion or is
Yeah.
accurate to the conclusion of the article.
This is the reason you can do two things to solve this problem, because this problem I also had, because you sit alone, you think this is the inference, this is the conclusion, but who will tell you for sure? So now you have two options to come out of this. That is why I suggest try taking mock tests, because mock tests have the answer. So you know you have something to check it with. But you can't always depend just on mocks, because how many mocks only can you give at a point, right? And you have to read the newspaper. So I suggest, if possible, be friendly with other people giving Clat. All my friends who had a group of friends where they studied in the group and they just discussed this, do not sit and think of reading with them, because that will waste time. You'll start talking and all. But make a set of hardcore friends. You can find them on Telegram. You can also contact me personally on Instagram and I can connect you with some other students. But if you study like this in a group, like if you can read editorials in a group, it'll really help you. Without a coaching also, I was very lucky that I had two friends with whom I was giving Clat. So if possible, if you can sit with them, and then when three people after reading the newspaper, we'd call each other and we try to confirm our conclusions, and very often this would happen that we both were thinking slightly different things. So then he'd give me his reasoning and I'd give mine, and then we'd finally settle on one. That way, this is also a good way to practice. After all, there is no way you can 100% be sure what you're thinking is what the paper setter will be thinking. In fact, this has so happened that sometimes they give conclusions which are so similar in the Clat paper that they have to scrap questions, because when people put their doubts, they put it in that this and this C and D are both equally possible. So don't worry exactly, because even on the final day, your answers may not exactly match in every question with the paper setter, and sometimes some of the questions can get scrapped. That possibility is there when they give very similar answers. So I suggest try practicing with friends, this editorial thing especially.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else has any questions before I move with the next part? I'd really love to answer any questions anybody has. Okay.
Okay, can I?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Like I have a doubt. First of all, first I am like I when I am reading, then after reading the whole passage, I forgotten the facts that are given in the passage.
Hmm.
And also unable to comprehend line by line. And if I do, then it took too much time for me.
Yeah.
And that, like, and this will lead to even 8 to 9 minutes per RC, like per passage. So
Too
it
much.
is too much. So like,
Hmm.
so how to improve, like, and I'm also practicing, I am also practicing daily sectional tests, but still I am lagging this, and my marks are not improving. And at the end, I'm only hardly attempt maximum 4 passages. Like, would you please suggest, like, how to deal with them and how to tackle that thing?
Okay, so for this only, I'm suggesting never read the whole. Are you reading the whole passage and then reading the questions?
No, first I will read the question, then go to passage. First question. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, read two paragraphs. Understand in your mind what is the passage about. Then approach the questions and look for the answers when you're reading the passage. Now, the only actual mechanism, because this has happened, first of all, let me tell you, this is the commonest problem. Like almost every student, including me, we face this problem, that you'll end up taking too much of time because sometimes they give very difficult comprehensions. So what I suggest is, for this you can refer to any cat book or start with, first of all, start with basic passages. What passages are you taking? Some mock test passages, etc.?
Basically I'm practicing from the mock test, from the LD and CL mocks I
Okay.
take.
Yeah. See, I've also taken many coaching, different coachings, mock test papers, etc. Before beginning with coaching sessions and Clat mocks, I suggest you first start with basic passages, because in that case, I'm understanding that you're reading and your reading speed is slightly slower and you're not used to RCs. This is a very common problem. So I started with, you can type on the internet, grade 10th. I myself started with grade 10th passages. Start with grade 10 and 11 passages. Keep the timer. Do not get frustrated. You're going to get answers wrong for a long time. You just need to practice. Ultimately, you're going to see slowly from 10 minutes, it's going to shift to 8 and it's going to shift to 5 as well one day. Start with basic. I think you should just push back the level of material a little. That'll give you some bit of motivation as well. And then take then advance on the material. That's the only mechanism. Also, when you're reading, like I said, many people have this tendency to just keep reading it and not understanding. you know this may be possible that you have solved lesser questions than a lot of other students, but you still get into an NLU and many of them don't, because accuracy is as important as number of questions you've answered are not important. You may have answered all 150 and 100 are wrong, but you may have answered only 90 or 80 questions, but like 75 out of 90 questions you've answered are correct. That has more of a chance in you getting an NLU rather than the first approach. So also focus on your accuracy. How is your accuracy? If your time is a lot, are your question answers correct?
Actually, like, my accuracy isn't good. First, previous still, like, then I started practicing by giving the 5 minute per passage, for 4 or 30 seconds per passage, per question. Then I started this, and in this, like, it gave me a too much pressure. Like, after solving, like within 4 to 5 minutes, I have to solve all those 5 6 questions. So, like, that gives like too much pressure. And then while attempting in the sectional test, then I don't know, it completely, like, it's like I fall down drastically. Like, my attempt rate reduces. I think that I am taking too much time, and I spending too much time, but the
I've understood
accuracy.
your problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only then approach for this would be, you set a timer of 6 minutes. Do not think I have to solve all six or all five questions. See how many can you solve. Let's say you're able to solve three, but you're getting like all right answers. You have to see your accuracy. I am suggesting first you check your accuracy. You give 5 minutes to each passage and see how many questions are you able to solve in each and how many of them are correct. You have to basically see to it that you pick marks. And this is my advice to all students. Your intention should not be to solve as many questions. Yeah, time is an essence, time is key, but accuracy is key as well. So you have to look how many are you able to get correct. Always look not at the number of questions you're answering, but the number of questions correct. I'll further take up your query at the end when I'm done, And we'll discuss this problem because a lot of students have this problem. Now, firstly, I'll move on to giving you some more tips and tricks. Now, first of all, like I said, solve as many RCs as possible, as many as you can. Also, try different material, like not just coaching centers. You're going to find Telegram groups. Lots of material is available today. Make use of as wide material as possible. Further, like I said, try Cat. Try Cat. Once you're done with Clat passages, try Cat advanced passages for practice. Really improves. Now, also tell me how many people use a vocabulary compendium here. How many people have used a vocabulary compendium? I'm hoping quite a few people.
I'm using the early high frequency words and the Hindu editorial vocabs.
Okay, so you are all, I'm hoping you all should use some form of a vocabulary compendium. Now, today there are a lot of vocabulary compendiums available on like the internet as well. In the internet, if you're unable to find just by typing vocabulary compendium, you can type SAT, SAT, LSAT, word power made easy, or LSAT vocabulary booklet, and you're going to find quite a few which has like the 1000 most important words, etc. Make a use of a vocabulary compendium. How do you define? Don't just sit with a vocabulary compendium thinking today I can do 1000 words. No. Every day have like a goal, a set goal that I'm going to spend 25 minutes, and in 25 minutes I'm going to learn 10 words, 10 new words. Now, how do you learn a new word? Don't just look at the word and the meaning. Look at the word, read the meaning, check the pronunciation so that you can even practice using it, etc., so that it makes it interesting for you. Check the pronunciation online, then move ahead and see sentences of that particular word. Like, let's say there is a word like epitome. Now, this word, many people mispronounce it as epitome. The spelling is EPITOME. Now, many people say epitome, but it's actually epitome. And that means to consider somebody as like an icon or an idol of some sorts. Now, what I suggest you all can do is look at sentences which use this word. That is what, when you're going to see it used in a sentence, that is when it's going to actually register in your mind. 25 minutes or 20 minutes every day, and 10 words, not more than 10 words, not less than 10 words. This, by the end of, let's say you have 4 months left for Clat or 6 months left for Clat, this, by the day you'll be giving Clat, and especially even better for AILET. Like, I can assure you that such a manner, even MHCET, if anybody is giving MHCET, BLAT, I gave like a ton of, I'd not give symbiosis and BLAT myself, I'd given MHCET, AILET and Clat. In all these, this vocabulary, this tiny practice will go a long way, because it will do 3 things. Number 1, passages will become way more easier, because the passages that they give use generally very difficult words. Like every word is, 12 letters or 10 letters. So it'll make passages easy for you. It'll make vocabulary questions very easy for you. And last but not the least, it'll make questions, of MHCT, which are direct questions, etc., very easy. Am I clear here? Did you all understand what I mean by using a vocabulary compendium and how to use one? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I hope I was clear when I say that this is how you have to, and this is compulsory. Do not think you can get away without using a vocabulary compendium. It'll also help you for the rest of your life, because a vocabulary compendium is not just about, right now just the Clat. It's even going to help you further with your law school journey, no matter which law school you finally go to, or even if you're going to, even if you pick some other career, even then, any BA, even a BA in political science, etc., that compendium will go a long way for you. So do not skip this step. Next is, there is this one book. It's known as Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis. You can buy it. It's for, I think, 275 or 300 rupees. You can also get it secondhand, etc. You can order it online, because a lot of people sell their books, second. You can take whichever one suits. You can even use a PDF. But Word Power Made Easy teaches you, it divides every word into like root words. Like, for example, pan means all. So pan-Asian, pansexual, pan attached before any word would have that, similar meaning. So it teaches you how to divide root words. cute words. So it has one of the most beautiful techniques, word power made easy by Norman Lewis. It really makes vocabulary and reading easier. So I really suggest use word power made easy by Norman Lewis. Is everyone clear? You can even note it down. I mean, I suggest really it, and almost every friend of mine in NLU, D, in RGNUL, in NLSIU, all of them have made use of word power made easy. Initially, I thought it was only me, but when I met my friends in RGNUL, and we were all, we teach students sometimes for free as well, English, etc. So we came to know that Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis is one of the most used books. Please make use of it.
Hello, Didi.
Yes. Now I'm going to take to answering questions because I wanted this to be interactive. So I just want to stop sharing screen. Yeah. I'll come back here and just stop sharing my screen. So now I'm free to answer more questions, and I want questions from everybody.